Good evening and welcome to the WFC Show with me, Matt Crane. What's new? It's Tuesday. It's been chaos. It's been a busy week already. We've changed topic, so yeah, we're going to talk tonight. Obviously, Vilde Boe Risa was announced this morning, first confirmed signing, shall we say, for United Women. We then went into a bit of a chaotic flap about 5 p.m. when the Telegraph and Tom Garry decided to drop that Marc Skinner was one of the mentioned candidates for the United job. We still don't know sort of how true it is. You know, it's a name that's been mentioned a few times. We've heard rumours, then we've heard other people, then it's gone quiet. And now Orlando have come out and said they're not prepared to comment on rumours. So who knows, but we're going to get stuck into that. And then if we get time, we will discuss WSL opponents. If we don't, that'll be next week's show. So it's never content lost. Joined tonight by John, Anthony and Gareth. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been back. So we'll start with you, John. How are we?
Yeah, good, thank you. Obviously, we'll get into it shortly, but today has been like the first day in ages where I've actually felt proud of defending my team when Boe Risa joined us, and I was getting stick off City fans and Chelsea fans, but I was actually defending my team for a change, whereas the last few months we've been on a negative and going off on one because of our leadership and stuff, whereas today I've actually felt like the way it was 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. So, the first part of the day was really, really good. Obviously, when I got home, I started to read a few messages, maybe not as good, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, all in all, not a bad day.
Stuff. How are you, Gareth? I know you're saying pre-show you were sunburnt and Formula One out, but
had a week off last week to go and watch some actual football. Saw Oldham win 2-0 in the pre-season friendly, so that was nice. And then, just had funny that Robert pops up. Just had an amazing weekend just in my own little Formula One world. Very sunburned, lots of dust and dirt, and smells of clutches burning and things. But glad to be back into. Well, I'm not glad to be back, but back into some sort of normality, and not sleeping on the 10th floor.
It's always a bonus. What I will say, though, on the sunburn is you're not the reddest on the show, so you're not doing too bad. Which leads me on to you, Anthony. How are we doing?
I'm all right. I don't know why I always go reddest, because I work out in it all day.
No, I feel for you, pal. I get the same. Not quite as bad as you, but I do catch the sun on my face quite easily.
Yeah, but no, I'm good. It's nice to have a full house this evening. Nice to see that everyone turned up.
Well, it makes a change from you sort of starring, last week, obviously, because like you said, a couple of people decided had other ideas last minute, but hey ho, that's done.
I was more on about Ben.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm
backing you up, saying you played a starting role last week.
You're on about Gareth and that, but
no, I knew Gareth was busy. It's Benny that we book him on, and he does his disappearing act. But anyway, never mind. So lots to talk about. We will get straight into it then. I'm going to start with the main talking point that seems to have sort of melted Twitter a little bit. Marc Skinner. So what I'll do is obviously I'll sort of talk about it from my point of view, because I'm sort of, I saw his Birmingham side a fair bit. I'm sure if Craig's in the comments as well, he'll pop up with a few questions. But yeah, so obviously Marc Skinner was mentioned, like I said, a few hours ago by Tom Garry of the Telegraph. And then after that, everyone just seemed to explode. But for me, if I talk about Marc, obviously at Birmingham, they were known for playing out from the back, very good passing team, very good defensive record. He did this on a very low budget. And I think in his second season, in 2017, they made the FA Cup final. They beat Chelsea, lost to Man City in the final, but that season they did also come fourth in WSL. Now, they come fourth with Anne-Katrina Berger, who's now the Chelsea keeper. She was missing. She was undergoing her cancer treatment at the time. And Ellen White barely played. She was, constantly injured. So I think for me to come fourth with that, is a fantastic achievement. And, they were very hard work in Birmingham, sort of one of them, a bit like Reading are to us, like a bit of a bogey side to most teams. They were very, very organised, difficult to break down, very solid defensive foundation. Here's Craig now. They beat Chelsea, Man City, and Arsenal. So I mean, that's something we could do with. He brought through a lot of youth, and I'll come on to that very shortly because I know obviously that's something we're big on at Man United. 2018, they had 15 wins, which is the same as we got in the season just finished. 16 clean sheets, and like I said, without the main striker, 37 goals, which, I mean, people might turn around and say that's poor, but for me, without your main striker, there's nothing poor about that. I think that's pretty good. Lots of 1-0 wins, which again, people view it as good and bad, Some say it's scraping by, but for me, a hallmark of a good team is if you can see out a 1-0 win consistently, fair play. Quote from Mark at Birmingham, he said, I didn't get up in the morning to be mediocre. He's very driven, hardworking, he likes to be a perfectionist. So the first thing I thought was, yeah, why not? There's worse names out there. Yes, he struggled in Orlando, which we will get into, but for me, his record at Birmingham is up there, and I wouldn't be disappointed. I'll put that out now. If Mark came in, I'd be happy with that. Craig again loves a clean sheet. So, defensively we were poor last year. We've got somebody potentially coming in that could do a job. His wife used to be a defender, so I was like, right, let's get her in, defensive coach, if she fancies it, who knows. But yeah, so for me, I was, satisfied. However, it seems Twitter weren't. So I'll come to you first, John. Sort of having heard what I've put out there now and maybe anything you've read, what are your thoughts on that potential if it happens? Would you be happy? Unsure?
At the moment, I wouldn't say I was happy. I think you could look at it two ways. I think we've been forced to look at it two ways. His last couple of seasons versus when he was in the WSL. So we can look at it, okay, so what's more important, WSL experience or what he's done in a completely different ball game in America? So when I look at it like that, I think it's more important what he's done at Birmingham as opposed to what he's done at Orlando. But you can also look at it, he only as good as your last match. And at Orlando, obviously, recently, results haven't gone his way at all. I know you guys could probably read off all the stats. I've read so many stats at Orlando and they're not great reading. I think if it was a better signing, I think more people would be jumping on it. But then again, you can argue the case, are many United fans actually women's football fans? Are there a lot of fans on Twitter that don't know much about him and they only know the top line, much like myself? So I think you've got to do a lot more research before you jump straight into it. But for me, I wouldn't say I was happy about it just yet because I just don't think he's one of the front runners. Well, I know the tweet says he's the front runner now, but was he the front runner back in March, April, May, June? We don't know, do we? When you say that if it's been confirmed, I do kind of agree with that. However, I think this is one of the first times where a journalist actually name dropped someone. We speak to journalists all the time and they say an announcement will be soon, an announcement next week. There's two names in the running. I think this is one of the few times, if the only time, where a journalist has actually come out and said a name and also followed it up by saying that the players are looking forward to it as well. Now, surely you wouldn't go that far because that's a straight out lie. If you turn around and say the players are looking forward to working with this manager, then you can't just get that. That's either a lie or it's the truth. So I don't think you can come out and say that. So I definitely think that he's probably one of the two candidates or was one of the two candidates. Is he actually the one that's got the job? Possibly.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Anthony, I'm going to come on to you then. Obviously, I don't know how much you've read or how much you know, or how much you may follow NWSL. But what are your initial thoughts? Obviously, John says he could potentially be one of the two. Would you be happy with that based on sort of info that you've been given, or would you maybe have another name in mind that perhaps you'd prefer ahead of him?
I think I'd be happy. What he did at Birmingham, it's a different kettle of fish in America, isn't it? It's obviously not gone too well for him. But I've been reading up a bit on his Wikipedia, and it does actually say that he, if I read it right, that he did equal Orlando's longest unbeaten run, which was 9 games. So that hasn't all gone wrong for him out there. I don't know how true that is. Wikipedia told me that, so I'm just getting a bit of information. So I can hopefully come out with something useful. I'm sure it wouldn't be made up, but But yeah, if he can get our defence tight and that, and I'm sure he'll want to bring a few players in or some coaching, like you said with Laura. It'd be good if she could come. She won so many caps. I don't know how many to precise. You probably would know that. But look, we discussed ages ago, didn't we, about pretty football and that. At the end of the day, yeah, it could be boring. But if you're winning 1-0 and you win 1-0 22 times in the season, you're champions, aren't you?
That's it.
What's the point winning 6-0 5 or 6 times, but then you haven't won the championship because you haven't beaten Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City? So, like you said with it, I don't know totally a lot about him, but looking at his stats as well, he's not been around too long. He's only been with Birmingham and Orlando. He's managed, if I read it right, if you compare to Casey, her win rate is a lot higher, but then she had that season in the championship, so that would have ballooned it up quite a bit. So yeah, there could be a couple of candidates, but you've got to give them a chance, and he's at least someone I've heard of. So, and I did see his team once. It must have been the team because Ellen White did play back. I watched Birmingham against Brighton one season, and I remember. I actually think Brighton won that game, but I'm pretty sure that was back in the 2017-2018 season before United came about. So, yeah, you're not going to keep everyone happy, but if he comes in and gets the ball rolling and then goes like 10 games unbeaten, then you're soon going to shut up the haters, aren't you? So,
yeah, absolutely. Gareth, I'm going to come to you then. Obviously, I'm looking at Craig's comment about 3 international players in the NWSL and you can't compare the two. John Hume says, Orlando were a mess before Mark joined. Not only has he had to change the team, he's also had to change mindsets, and he agrees with the appointment. What's your thoughts then? Because to me, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking there's a lot of criticism coming from people that maybe don't know much about him. Mm-hmm. And as Craig said, maybe unfairly comparing the two sort of leagues. But for me, it's like, who else is out there? Pedro Losa was linked, ex-Arsenal. He's now been in charge of the Scottish national team. So genuinely, I'm sat here thinking, well, why not? Why are people against this when, to me, there seems nobody better? Nobody wants Phil Neville and nobody wants Vilde Boe Risa. So where does it leave us with the clock ticking? What are your thoughts then?
Yeah, I think quite a lot of the criticism that I've seen on Twitter today has been either just unfair or it's lacked a lot of context and they've cherry-picked statistics. So a lot of focus has been on his win rate. So to add some context to that, his win rate at Birmingham was 48%. Claudio Ranieri's win rate at Leicester was 44%. But no one's going to look at Claudio Ranieri's time at Leicester and say, oh, that was poor. He only won 44% of the games when he won them the league and took them into the Champions League.
Yep.
The other stat I've seen is that he didn't win a game for 2 years at Orlando. It isn't true. He didn't win a game for about 21 months. But the people are forgetting that in 2020, the NWSL season didn't run, and they were left with a 4-game Fall Series Cup. So that statistic isn't necessarily fair either. I think what's really difficult in the NWSL, like Craig touched on, is only having those 3 international players. And quite often, he'll have the likes of Marta, or has had the likes of Marta and Alex Morgan. But they spend most of the season with the national teams. So you're going to have Alex Morgan come back. And when she's there, you have to fit her in the squad somewhere. But I think she only plays 1 or 2 games a year for Pride. She doesn't play very often. So you're going to have this player coming back. You're going to have to try and mess around with what you're doing to try and fit them in. And then that's going to mess up with the system. their season this year is it's not tearing up trees this season, but they're 5th out of 10. They're in the playoffs, and I think, if you went to Orlando and sort of said, "What is your if you get into the playoffs at the end of this season, is that a good season for you?" They'd say yes. So, he's installed. He's had to come in and has had to deal with. He had a poor first season, yes. Last year, I think, is unfair to judge anybody in the NWSL on their record from last season, because it was so disrupted, because loads of players left on loan and came to the WSL and sort of moved abroad. So I think last year isn't really fair to judge anybody on. And this year, in his second full season there, he's sort of taken them from being around the bottom of the table to pushing for the playoffs at this point. So, yeah, I think that a lot of the emphasis on his time at Orlando has been unfair and taken out of context. And, like you've already mentioned with Birmingham, there wasn't an awful lot of resources there in terms of budget. Played some nice football, played it out from the back, kept it secure, and won games. I don't like just looking at the managerial statistics column on Wikipedia, looking at your win percentage, because it doesn't tell the whole story. And even if it did, around 50% is actually a really good, solid win percentage. So Alex Ferguson's was 59. Casey's is 67, but like Anthony said, it was a point that I was going to make as well. That's really, really skewed by dominating the championship. So, yeah, I think the people need to kind of look at the context of where he's worked, and take that into account as well. But yeah, probably wouldn't have been my first choice sort of 6 months ago. Well, it wasn't 6 months ago. 2 months ago, it feels like a lot longer. But we could do a lot worse. And if he comes in, I'd expect us to be defensively solid, which I think at times we've not been. And yeah, if we win games 1-0, that's fine. I don't mind. I didn't mind watching England win games 1-0 during the Euros. So, I just hope that whoever it is can kind of come in and sort the mess out, because, there's players there who are going to be on really short-term contracts, sort of probably rolling monthly contracts that can be cut at any point. And I feel like he's got the shoulders to come in and bear that burden initially, get things sorted out over the summer, and then get ready to kick on in 2 months' time.
Yeah, spot on. I think as well, I saw something that Robert tweeted and he was on about sort of just whilst we were briefly chatting Wikipedia and people sort of getting caught up. It's like what I was saying with the Oshuala hype. Everyone was saying, oh, well, she scored 30 goals in 30 games in China. And I'm like, just read back your last two words, in China. And I think people need to just, for me, just calm down, I'll get onto some brilliant comments. I'm looking at the last three we've got and sort of go through them in a minute. But, it's like people need to have a look, speak to Birmingham fans, speak to other fans that have actually seen what he brought, and it's like Anthony said, he was still is for me, still is a young coach, he's obviously started at Birmingham, he's been at Orlando, and it's like, football is a short career, but in coaching, he has not been around for very long at all. So I think, listen, going, and we'll touch on this in a bit, going to a different league and playing the brand of football you play here is a completely different ball game, and people are judging him off that, for me, based on Wikipedia, and overlooking his achievements sort of prior to that. John, I'll sort of start with you, and we'll go through these comments. Atanu mentions about not having proper resources at Birmingham, but they still reached the cup final and got fourth. Maybe with our squad, he can do better. A comment here as well. Rich Laverty reposted his articles from his interviews with Marc. Again, like Craig said earlier, won games against top WSL teams, and that is key. Again, I'd agree. Something we don't do enough is beat the teams above us. This one as well, very interesting from Paul. a manager who knows what the league is about. Again, experience of winning against a so-called top three. And I think for me, it's, interesting that a lot of people are looking at him beating the top sides, which is great. And for me, with this comment, experience of the league. Based on that then, John, and obviously, all the other two comments, would you be sort of satisfied in the fact that, okay, we don't have a big budget, we know there's going to be cuts, but we sort of have to work with what we've got, and based on that, and like I say, comments and previous work done at Birmingham, he would be suited, because obviously let's not forget, he is a person that coaches players. He's not somebody where he's gone out in his career and he just buys and gets better that way. He actually physically coaches, which to me is probably what we need, and especially looking at a leaky defence.
Yeah, I think that's there's been a few names bandied about, and the ones who aren't the headline names, we all think to ourselves, like, why are these managers being spoken about? It's probably because they're happy to work, one, at United, even though they're not in the Champions League, and two, on a lower budget. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what has he done that makes the club think, okay, he's right for us? And it's either going to be a cheap option or an option who can develop players where they don't need to spend a lot of money. And that could be a number of managers. You could have gone to quite a few managers who's probably a better coach than they are like a headline name. So I do think that's probably a reason why that could be the case. Sorry, my computer is just going to be dodgy there. Rarely happens. Am I still on screen?
Yeah, he's still there, John.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So for me, I think that is probably the reason, the fact that he's probably going to be better at working with the players as opposed to maybe attracting the players, which is obviously a good thing. But a part of me is still thinking, why have they chose him over so many other managers that may not be world class or may not be like the names that we've kind of been linked with, but why have they still gone for him over other, say, average WSL managers, present even? The jury's still out for me on this one, because even though he's done really well at Birmingham, which I agree with, is that enough? So to me, I think it's still a bit of a waiting game for me.
Yeah. Gareth, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, I'm looking at this comment here about, history of slow starts. Is that worrying? I'm looking at John Fry's comments talking about, the league is a lot stronger now compared to when he was at Birmingham, which could work against him. And then this final comment about, obviously, WSL isn't part-time anymore. It's a better standard with better players. Do you want to sort of summarise and touch on those three comments and add your thoughts? Does it worry you? Could it possibly work against him? Or are you thinking, well, actually, to be fair, he's in my opinion, America, best league in the world. He's at a high level. Could he continue it in the WSL, which, maybe isn't as well, it isn't as good as America. I'll put that out there with my opinion anyway. But what are your thoughts, and can you maybe summarise that for us then?
I don't think that potentially having a slow start is a reason to be concerned. I think that in football in general at the moment, there seems to be this need for immediate gratification, and if it's not right in one season, sack it, let's start again. So for a little bit of context, I've watched Oldham a lot. Some of you may know this, and we've gone through, I think, 15 managers in 7 years or something stupid like that, and you never get anywhere. So I would happily have a manager come in, have a slow start. If we finish 6th at the end of next season, it's not ideal. It's not where you want to be. It would be a disappointing season. But if that lays a foundation to build upon and push on next year, so the system is embedded, all the players know their roles, they all know what they're meant to be doing, they all know the way that they need to play, and then you can just start bringing a couple more players to integrate them into that and kick on, rather than going out immediately for a year. Okay, it's not worked. Scratch that. Let's try something new. And you go through the whole process again of having a new person come in, integrate their system, get the players to know their roles, and go from there. So, no, I don't think a slow start is particularly worrying. If it's just one slow season and then you build on that, that's fine. If after 18 months there's been not really any progress shown, then I think we should start potentially having to think about whether there's a different direction to go in. But definitely until kind of Christmas 2022, whoever comes in, there shouldn't be any thought about a change at the top at all. Like, if we have to take one step backwards, take two steps forwards, that's absolutely fine. I'm sure we'd all rather have, finish sixth next year and third the season after than finish fourth 2 years in a row and miss out on Champions League again. So, I think that's kind of what I think on slow starts. And in terms of the league getting better, it has. But in the same time as, yes, other teams have improved and the league is stronger, but it also means the quality of players at United is stronger than it was when he was at Birmingham as well. So I think in terms of the league getting better, that works both ways. He will have better players to deal with, but we'll be playing against better players. But no, I agree with you, Matt. And I think NWSL is the top league in the world. And if he's kind of building something there and making moves there, then that should be encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony, I'll come with you just to sort of round off on this, league debate and it obviously being better. I'm thinking of this comment here as well. Is Marc Skinner a big enough name to attract and bring in new fans like Casey did? If it wasn't for Casey, fans like myself wouldn't have come on board. I mean, yes, that's a fair point. For me, I think obviously, is it a big enough name? Possibly not. But then I think for me, we need to decide, are we going for a huge name? Especially when we're not throwing money at it, it's unlikely to happen. Or are we going for somebody that's got the know-how of the league, pretty much, plays and his principles and values and beliefs are the same as the clubs, in terms of bringing through youth, which I'll let you speak on in a minute, in terms of needing to improve defensively, in terms of playing out from the back. I'll let you answer the question, actually. Do you think it's a big enough name? And where do you see it in terms of if it did come back, the league being where it was then to now?
It's a good question. Is it a big enough name? It's one of those where, yes, there is bigger names out there. But like you've touched on the point, we're not going to throw money at. We're not going to throw money at it. So possibly the other ones want the money, the backing with it. Whereas with Marc Skinner, as you've said about the youth, they might bring a bit more of the youth through and give the youth a bit more of a chance. And I'm sure there are some good youth players in our development squad. I know Nat would be the top one for that. She can tell me who to look out for, and she's going to be the next star in that. So, but it is. They obviously want someone that knows the values of United, plays. They can play the way that United play. Like I said, I wouldn't say it's a bad signing. I wouldn't say it would stop us from attracting new fans. No, like we say with a player, it's like the manager, isn't it? The manager does not make the team. You support. No. I know he said he wouldn't have joined if it wasn't for Casey, but as a United fan, men and women, you support the manager regardless until they're no longer the manager because it's gone wrong, or they've been there a long time and they've won your stuff. You support them through and thin. I'm not going to say it's a bit like, not going to say he's not a proper fan because he started supporting Casey, because lots of people support teams because of certain players. Do you call them like a supporter of the manager or the player though, or because like I said, Tobin Heath, I was lucky enough to go and see the Reading game, and I had a woman behind me. She was only there because Tobin Heath was playing. So you do, I would say you get it more in the women's game where someone's more likely to turn up because of a player or possibly a manager. I would say it's a bit less with the manager, but like I said, regardless of the manager, if he comes in, it'll attract players. If they want to play for Man United, they'll play for Man United, won't they? I'm sure he's got enough talk to be like, oh, this is it's all about, and just the name Man United. I know we might not be. We're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. I know the women's. Obviously, we've only been 3-4 years, 3 seasons, not even 3 seasons properly. So that's a pull in itself. Just being wanted by Man United, and it depends how you see it. You could go to Man City and Chelsea and get success instantly, but you could also see it as a challenge that you want to get them up. It's like, I know we're going to talk about our new signing later, but she said she wants to get us as far in the league and get us to qualify for the Champions League as much as she possibly can, and there's challenges in that way. So I like I said, I reckon he can. He's big enough to attract players. He got Amy Turner. I know Amy Turner's gone there. She's a big enough name. She did well at United, so I don't see the problem with it.
Can I just jump in as well, just to answer that question, because I think it's a great question. Just the fact that I don't think he's probably a big enough name to attract some stars, but I don't think it matters. I know Anthony kind of alluded to it because he played for Man United, but it does matter to an extent. If you've got like a fantastic manager with a fantastic CV behind you, people want to play for them. But I don't think they'll turn around and say, unless if that manager's got a real bad reputation with how he or she manages players, I don't think a player would turn around and say, I'm not going to that team because that's the manager, unless if, like I said, they've got a real bad reputation. I think people might be more attracted to a glamour name if they've got a fantastic CV, but I don't think it would actually turn the nose up at it. We've spoke about a name on here who's got a very good CV, but players may not want to play for that lady because of the way she treats those players. So I think it can work probably both ways on that. Let's move on to Boe Risa because this is going to get exciting.
Well, hang on. Before we jump to Boe Risa, I was just going to sort of finish on Anthony's point, and I had one more thing to make on Mark. I was going to say, Anthony, it was interesting what you were saying, because obviously you say, you talked about coming in because of the manager, and that shouldn't be the case. And I think it's spot on. I think the thing for me is in 2018, how many Man United fans can genuinely, honestly put their hand up and say, yeah, I knew Casey Stoney, I followed her career religiously, and it was a great appointment. I don't think there's very many. And she came in as a new coach, and again, she came with obviously a playing reputation. Nobody, myself included, had an idea of how she would be as a coach. Obviously, like others, I'd seen her play, but it's like, for me, people came for Casey, and that's great. But now, if it is Skinner, for me, like you said, the name will be backed regardless. And I think the fact that there's already been in that Telegraph piece a couple of rumblings saying players are excited and players can't wait. For me, that tells you all you need to know. If it is true and players have genuinely been interviewed, and they're excited, then for me, it's like, how much better can you get than that? Players want to play for him. Fantastic. I'm going to very quickly touch on bringing through the youth, John, because I feel it's important, obviously based on Man United and sort of the way we look to do things. Mark was known for doing that at Birmingham. I can think of a couple of names, but I think Craig will be able to give me a few
I'm just going to carry on. Oh, can you hear me back?
Charlie Wellings was one who were brought through, and he sort of trust in the youth. Am I back?
Keep talking, Matt.
Can you hear me now, John?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry, I was saying about the youth. So he brought Frelly Brazil and Charlie Wellings. And, you know, he was big on youth at Birmingham, obviously, with not having enough money. You know, again, you know, I talk about us not having much money and not being willing to spend. Something that we can surely benefit from. If he's willing, you know, to bring through youth players and give them a go over sort of, you know, experienced pros, does that not as well tick another Man United philosophy / box on a potential manager versus somebody else? Because, you know, I'm thinking again, and I'm thinking of other names, and, you know, I've read and been told that other names have turned us down due to lack of budget. And also, you know, I think of Gerard Prishaw, who was at Lyon, again, going to cost us a fortune in wages and going to want a big budget. So looking at Marc, surely it makes sense in that respect as well.
It does, yeah, but you've also got to think, is it just forced upon him? So yeah, it's good that he's able to do that and is happy to do that. That's really good because it means that he actually wants to do it. But are the club kind of forcing him into that position where he's got to play someone? So you've either got to play players who are fringe players who, or maybe towards the end of the career, or start bringing through youth. Now, I would much rather obviously bring through youth if you've got that option than to play players who have already had their time and already reached their peak. I would like to see it, and I think it will actually happen this season. I think looking at the signings that we've rumoured to be making and the amount of outs that we've already had and a couple more that may still happen, I do think that we will play youngsters. And that's obviously a good thing. It's what we want to see. You know, no one's, you know, as soon as anyone jumps on Tooney, you know, we start defending them because they're our own. And I know that they haven't, you know, there was not necessarily in the dev team in the last 3 years, but we still jump on our homegrown players to protect them, and listen, that we want more to see some of our devs come through. But I want it to be done for the right reasons. I don't want them just to be coming through because the manager's not being backed. I want them to be surrounded by good players to help develop them as well, because they're not going to get better being surrounded by players who haven't made it at the highest level. They need to be playing along with some top quality players and some top quality coaches as well.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on then. Cautious of time. We've got Vilde Boe Risa to talk about. Anthony, I'll start with yourself. Obviously, I said to you yesterday, didn't I? Might be on a changed show, pending an announcement. We got an early announcement by Man United standards. Yeah, something like that. I think, listen, you know, this was obviously dropped by the Norwegian FA. We sort of knew back in about February, March time that it was a done deal and she'd signed a pre-contract, obviously. You know, a couple of issues in Norway of teams collapsing and going to another one. And then, yeah, she's finally here. So thoughts on that? I mean, people, you know, you may know a lot about it, you may not know much, but people have sort of said, you know, signing of the summer. And there was a tweet before I put out just a little bit of banter between ourselves. But rival fans were like, quality midfielder, great player, best midfielder in Norway, up and coming, because she's only, I think, about 26. Time to Man United, and it's, oh, don't want her anyway, not very good. Oh, yeah, Man United level. So, I mean, you know, where do we stand? Obviously, I mean, most things I've read, everyone's absolutely buzzing. I'm assuming you are, so I'm going to shut up now and let you speak for a little bit on, Boe Risa.
Yeah, no, like you said, finally confirmed. We like you said, we knew it was happening. It was just a matter of when, because there are other signings that have jumped the gun already, which we'll know about eventually when United confirm that it's all right to confirm. I don't know much about her. Like you said, I know she's going to be number 8, obviously, from the photos and that. And she plays midfield. I know one of the Norwegians in the WhatsApp group has mentioned that she can do both parts of the midfield, like defence and attack. So it'll be interesting to see who suffers this season with the arrival of her. Potentially, it could be Zellem, couldn't it? But we will find out. Hopefully, if we get injuries again as well, we won't have to worry so much because we've got that depth. She's a United fan, childhood United fan, so obviously it's her dream to play obviously for United, so that always helps.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't know much about her. I know she started her career at was it a Norwegian club or a Swedish club, but she played 121 times for them. I saw because I did a bit of flicking through before the show just to see how often she had played in that. So, but I'm sure maybe you all might know a bit more on her than me. Like, it's difficult because I don't watch. Like, I'm very much just see the WSL at the moment. Like, not even the American League I see. So, I think maybe I'll have to start watching some foreign women's football, so I'm a bit more clued up about certain players when we do have these discussions.
Anthony, that's a good link. So what you need to do is go on to Wednesday's show that's hosted by Natalie, and she's going to do a show about every league in each different country, and I have a special guest on who knows a little bit about that. So well done, Anthony. It's a good way to promote Natalie's show that starts tomorrow. Matt's back now. There he is.
Oh, that's good. No, that would definitely help. Because sometimes I feel like you ask me a question about a certain player, and I feel like I'm a bit useless sometimes. I'm like, okay.
Here we go. She's in the comments. You must have heard.
She has arrived. Gareth, I'm going to jump to you then. Obviously, people are really excited. Obviously, a childhood United fan. Atan, who talks about, great depth in the midfield. Obviously, first of all, I want to get your thoughts on it. And secondly, second question is, where do we fit her in? Do we need to change formation or, drop maybe somebody who started last year, or, do we sort of stick with what we've got? Where do you see that? So do you want to sort of answer those about thoughts on the signing and how we fit her in, or where?
Yeah, I think where we fit her in is going to be interesting. And I think it will probably change depending on the system that we're playing in that game. So I think for Norway, she's kind of played more defensively, and so could play alongside Ladd maybe in that double pivot 2 holding, which I know how much you love. Or,
I've got a new formation now.
Yeah, with 12 players in it.
Yeah.
No, 11. I've worked it out, pal. I will share it shortly.
Or can we give the kind of a bit more freedom to sort of play box to box? I think in terms of where she fits in, I think it's difficult because the obvious player to drop out of that midfield would be Tooney, which I don't want to see happen because I think she was one of our better players last season playing in midfield. And I think, she could go out and play on the right, but then, I kind of want Hansen out there potentially, or, if we do, I think we need to bring in a right-sided player. So I think the difficulty is how we now fit all the players in. I think probably we'd see a 3 of. I think Jackie is a cert in there. So I think Jackie is 100% in there. And I think we could see kind of Hayley or Boe Risa sort of sitting a bit deeper, and then Tooney and Jackie, or we could see Hayley sitting a bit deeper, and then Boe Risa and Jackie. I think it gives us a lot of options. It gives us a lot of depth, and that's what we needed. There's now a number of different options that we've got, and I think Nat's pretty much just said in the comments, kind of what I was implying. It gives us options, and that's always important. And I think the person that's going to miss out is most likely going to be Zellum, which is interesting because obviously with Amy T being vice captain and having left, it does beg the question as to if Zellum isn't involved in that midfield three, as to who will wear the armband. But that's a potential discussion for another day.
Big fans out there for Jackie as captain. I'll say that much without taking up another show. John, were you going to jump in then?
Yeah, I did, just because I've seen formation changes, and I don't want to see a diamond, not yet. I want to try and make it work without a diamond, purely because I think United at our best, from what we've seen in our last 3 years, is Galton and Hansen on the wing, or Galton and Tobin on the wing. I like them diagonal balls out wide, where Galton can either run past the defender into space, running towards goal, or with the ball at the feet, running towards the goal, picking out a pass or something like that. So, as things stand, even though I'd love to see all four of them midfielders on the pitch together, I don't want to lose what we have got. And in my opinion, we're at our best when, like I said, the wingers have got the ball, whether they're running at the goal or just running down the side and crossing it in. So I don't want to lose that. I've seen online people say we'll play Galton up front with Russo. I get it, and I know Galton can score, but I just don't want to lose that width just yet. I think if you get another fullback like Ona on both sides, maybe you can experiment with that, especially against weaker teams. But I think that's just too much of a change. So I wouldn't want to go that radical just yet. So how I would fit him in is probably just a rotation at the moment, because I just don't want to drop Tooney. I don't want to put Tooney out wide. I think it needs to be Tooney, Lad, and Jackie. And then when Boe Risa settled and she's doing well, playing against the weaker teams. We saw it last season where you took Hayley Lad out and you played Zellum and Jackie together. On paper, it should work against the weaker teams, but it didn't. And very often we have to bring Hayley Lad back on at half time, even against the weaker teams, just to kind of shore up that defence and let the other players play. So it's great to have Boe Risa, but whether or not she's actually going to be in that starting lineup from the very first game, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because obviously it took Jackie 12 months to fully settle in. So like you say, I think for me, and I'll bring it out now, and I have counted this, boys, as well, just to make sure we have no more howlers like last time, so brace yourselves. I was thinking about this, and I've read a few comments today, and people saying diamond, and I think like you talked about the diamond, the difficult bit is the width, and there's inevitable holes, within that, where change over and lose possession. Can we get back into some sort of shape quickly? I don't know. So I've gone for a 4-1-2-3. Just let you count that, Gareth, because I can see the confused look on your face. So what I've got is, cheers, Anthony. I've practiced. I've gone for my back four. Ona, Millie, Mannion. I can't talk too much on left back, so I'm going to have to put Smith in there briefly. But you'll find out why over the coming few weeks. Mary in goal. Hayley Lad on her own holding. And this gets rid of my two that I don't like sitting. The two in front, but compact, is Groningen and Risa. So you've got that spine. It's like a 3, but it's more of a 1 and a 2. And then you've got Russo central, Tooney wide right, and Galton left. Now, thoughts for that. Obviously, people don't like Tooney wide. Fair enough. But that covers the width. Out of possession, that midfield in the middle is compact. So that 3 can almost become a flat 3 when in possession. And like I talked about, John, I think it was the other day on our Monday show, or it might have been on Ben's on Saturday, talked about, in possession, Hayley Lad can join the 2 and allow 1 or 2 of them to push on. Risa can sit with Lad in possession. Jackie can push on and sort of, provide that little menace and that late runs into the box. And it's sort of like inverted wingers. Yes, they're part of a front 3, but it just covers the width. So I'd be expecting Tooney and Galton to drop out of possession. Russo will be the furthest forward, but then you've still got that flexibility because you're covered with the width. So yeah, just again, just tinkering about, a little bit of discussion for people and thoughts. But I thought for me, get rid of 2 defensive midfielders because it's not too defensive. There's pretty much 3 up top, so it should cover, the goal situation and the isolated striker. and you can fit Risa, Gronin, Tooney, and Ladd all on the same pitch. And like Stuart says here, attack, attack, attack. Atanu's feeling it as well. It was actually Atanu. I think it was you that put out your first 11 that got me thinking about it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I don't know if anybody wants to quickly jump on that. Agree, disagree.
Can I just jump in?
Go on, John's waving at me. Go
very quickly, because there's been loads of talk about like how do we get them all in, and yeah, you can say Tooney on the right. I think Tooney's best position is more of a cam, which is fine, because if Tooney plays on the same side as Honor, we know that Honor can get forward, and then that does allow Tooney to go in the centre and drift around, have a bit more of a free role, like we saw her do a little bit last season, especially towards the end when she was playing on the right. So I'm not dead against Tooney playing on the right, and I know that she'll score and she'll be a menace on there. But I do want her to drift in, and if she's going to drift in, it means that obviously we need a back that can really get high up, because we got caught out last season when Tooney played on that right. No fault of her own, because she wants to go into an area where she can score and create, and she did do that. So then you got to think to yourself, okay, maybe against certain teams where we're dominating the ball and we can allow our fullbacks to get forward, yeah, maybe we can do that kind of formation. But maybe against some more solid teams, we might have to have a bit more of a balanced approach and play natural wingers out wide. And I know Tooney in the past is a natural winger, but I think that might be the case. You might have to look at your opponents a little bit more than your own players against certain teams. But I'll let the others talk on that one.
Yeah. No, I think for me, I'll just briefly come back to it. I think obviously, go on, Gareth, jump on.
I would say no. I agree with you pretty much. I think that second centre back spot is probably the shakiest of all of them. Abby's not gone yet, so I think that potentially she could stake a claim for grabbing that spot if she, if whoever comes in decides that she's in their plans. But yeah, no, I think I like it, and well done for being able to count to 10.
Well started training.
Oh, no, listen, I went away and I improved myself, and that's what this show's about. John Fry, I'll go back to it, pal, because you've missed my team. Just so we can all double check. So I've got Mary in goal, John. Owner right back, Millie and Aoife Mannion at centre half. I've gone briefly, Smithy at left back. So include Mary Gareth, you should have 5 fingers up, pal. Hayley Ladd, Risa and Jackie Gronin pushed on either side. So that's the 4, the 1 and the 2. And then the 3 up top of Galton left, Russo central and Tooney right. Is that 11, Gareth? So it's a 4-1.
It is, yeah.
3, John Fry. Now, obviously, John, Gareth was talking about, his little bits there. And you were saying about tuning the free rolls. I think for me, obviously, Diamond is one thing, which could work that out. The other option is maybe something like a 4-5-1 and have her, maybe slightly behind, or a 4-4-1-1 and have her behind, John Hume says he has so many choices in midfield, way better than Casey's predictable 4-3-3. I think for me, that's huge. And I'll let you sort of talk about this, Anthony. Being unpredictable, I'm very big on this, and I'm glad that John sort of talked about it. Last year for me and the year before, so our 2 seasons in WSL, we were quite predictable, and we seemed to play the same style. And when the going got tough, we sort of had no plan B. Do you think with that we need to change going forward with whoever comes in?
Yeah. You sort of want that element of surprise. You play the same way all the time, then you just make it easy for the opposition. When they're doing their homework, they're going to be like, oh, well, they're going to play this way. We need to stop this player. This is how we'll do it. But it all depends on who you're playing as well. Certainly against the bigger teams, I feel a formation change surprised them. It would definitely help. Because with the bigger teams, if they've got the quality, if you are giving them that like head start already, where they're going to play this is the formation they're going to play. They're likely to have these players or this potentially. Then you're doing half of their work for them already, really. Whereas if you have that element of surprise, where they have to be like, oh well, they could play this formation and they could do this. It's a case of they won't definitely. So they'll go into the game with maybe what they think will start, or they'll have to do a bit more work on the pitch to when they realise that we've gone in a different formation. So it definitely, I think, with the options we've got as well, I think we can afford. We'll definitely have that option where we can afford to change formation and it not hampering the team. So no, I agree. Definitely, we want to have a couple of ways of playing, but obviously, when the going gets tough and we do need to play maybe a bit more defensively, then whatever formation gets you over the line, if you get a good performance in, like even if you play 5 in midfield sometimes or something just to shut up the midfield, you do whatever to win. So I feel like and it would be good for the players as well, not just relying on one formation. With different formations, they're learning different ways of playing and certain roles.
Can I just say, and I'm sure no one will mind saying this, while Anthony was talking there, we was all just talking within the private chat. You can see all our fingers going. You can hear us typing. We're all just saying that we want Curtis Smith to stay. I'm just going to say it because I'm a Curtis Smith fan. I know 90% of the fans all want Curtis to stay. So I'm just going to say that we're all just typing in the private chat. I know you guys can't see, but you can probably see all our fingers going. And I don't know what even started that conversation off, but we've all just basically said it. So, I just wanted to say that because there's a lot of love for Man United fans and us four here for Curtis Smith. So obviously I just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, I'd rather Smith than Marv, 100%. She's a better footballer, and it goes to now. Casey's gone. It'll be interesting. Does she stay, and did she get a bit more time in? I know not last season because she had injuries, but was she one of the players that got a bit more time than they should have done, possibly because of who the manager was? I know you'd like to hope that it wasn't that way. You picked the best team that you got available, and I know obviously we didn't have so much competition, so possibly not. But definitely now with who we've got and that, I just think Kirsty Smith is the better option, and she can play on the right and left. So no, I'd feel more comfortable. I know a lot of people used to think, Kirsty was one of them players where you either loved her or hate her, but she's improved, and hopefully she'll improve more. So if we are getting rid of anyone, the fullback position, I agree. Yeah, Kirsty Smith, love you.
Just to touch on that, Vincent, I think it's the microphones rather than the fingers. Just to clear that up, but we will get that checked out because it is annoying. But yeah, I'm just going to quickly give my 10p's up very fast on Smithy. I think, we read the other day, didn't we? I think it was Emma again that broke the news about, some players maybe stay, some maybe signed off. But again, I agree with you guys and people in the comments. For me, Smithy has improved massively since season 1. She got a lot of stick in season 1. She got quite a bit of stick, to be fair, in season 2. So, I think for me, it's one of them where we should be keeping her now. And fingers crossed, because like Anthony said, she can play both sides, provide the cover. she's quick as well, or quicker than Martha, should I say. No disrespect to Martha, but who knows, let's watch this space. Very quickly then, before we go, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Very, very good show tonight. Tomorrow, 7 p.m, brand new show, Natalie's show. I don't know if she's still in the comments, but jump on that. We will communicate links and things like that tomorrow at some point. But make sure you all give Nat, the love and support that you all
Do I need to sign this show off instead of Matt? So just cut Matt off just for a second. Let's just see if he comes back. We'll go very quickly, just while he was talking about that. He'll be back. He's froze anyway. Yeah, joining tomorrow's show on this channel. Natalie's doing her first show. She's got a guest on. I'm not too sure who she's got. She has mentioned a few names. It's going to be an interesting show. She's going to do quite a few shows on different leagues, so you can learn a little bit about different countries. And she's also got a lot of plans. So she might do like a series on this, and then a series on our devs, a series on our players on loan. She's got loads of ideas. She would have done this sooner, but she's not very tech savvy on some of this, so she's just relying on a bit of advice and a bit of knowledge on that. But that's why it's took a little bit of time to do it. But please tune in 7 o'clock on tomorrow. I think she's going to be doing it pretty much every Wednesday. So please tune in, support her. We know that she's got a lot of love in the comments anyway. So get on her first show tomorrow at 7 o'clock on this channel. We'll give Matt another 5 seconds to come back, see if he's got anything else to say, but I don't think he has. No, the pay that.
He's forgot to pay the electricity bill, hasn't he?
Yeah, so plan for the rest of the week. Obviously, Wednesday we spoke about. Thursday, we've got Namrata on, and we've also got Mia Eriksson on. So Mia Eriksson is a journalist from Sweden who knows a lot about Scandinavian players, Boe Risa. So she'll be on Thursday. Friday will be the usual Friday Night Fan Forum. Saturday will be the Ben and Matt show. That won't be live because we're all going for a bit of a drink, bit of a night out up in Manchester. First time that we've actually got together on the night. Yeah, so look out for a few Twitter lives. Maybe we'll put a few videos on there, and then we'll roll into next week. I am going to shoot off because I don't know if Matt's actually going to come back, and I think he was towards the end of the show anyway. So thank you to everybody in the comments. Does it come back? I'm just listening.